This video supported in part by...
Playing VR, I tend to sweat. It gives me an edge. So King of Nerds happens to give me an edge too. Let King of Nerds give you the edge. Bye, King of Nerds.
Several years back, we saw phase one of MyArcade's line of tabletop and handheld little arcade toys. They were predominantly things like Pac-Man and Dig Dug and Galaga, and they were almost exclusively NES ROMs in a little arcade machine. Toward the end of that run, we did start to see some light at the end of the tunnel because we started getting premium edition lines that had genuine arcade ROMs in them. Well, we've now all had a couple of years to sit and wait and wonder and hope what might be next from MyArcade, and now phase two is finally hitting the shelves. Hey there, welcome back to Gen X Grown Up. I'm John and I am a Gen X Grown Up. Thank you for the click. In this video, what I want to take a look at is the new micro player from MyArcade. This is the All-Star Arena, which features 7 Jellico games, all NES titles again, 300 random games that are thrown in there. They're games that aren't games you know, they're just kind of riffs off of games. They're technically legally games, but how important are they to have on this machine? Well, I think the importance on this machine is justification of price, because while this little gadget is very similar to the old micro players we saw a few years ago, rather than coming in at the $20 to $25 mark, this guy is $40. And I think it's that additional 300 games that is trying to justify the price. And even though this is blatantly NES games originally, never in the arcade, they're still living in our little arcade-shaped toy. We've already looked at the Pico and Nano players that came out in this new wave. Is this wave 2 shaping up to be a good wave 2, or are we still in 1.5 or 1.6 at this point? Well, I'm ready to find out. Let's take this micro player to the table right now. I would like to start here by covering some very obvious comparisons between this new micro player and products from MyArcade that have come along before. Now, first and foremost, we have the Jellico games that are on this micro player are much of the same that we saw on this little pocket player a couple of years ago. And now in this case, we're just talking about the 7 Jellico games, none of the 301 junk that we'll talk about in a second, but certainly an obvious point of comparison. And next, I would like to point out the comparison to this Pico player. Now in this new wave from MyArcade, they're putting out both an All-Star Arena and an All-Star Stadium, and it's just really whether or not it's baseball or soccer themed. You've got baseball, soccer, hoops, and tennis are all on the same things, much larger in this case, bigger screen. But what is arguably the most important and obvious comparison is looking at this new micro player compared to the line of micro players that MyArcade was putting out just a couple of years ago. And you can see at a glance, size-wise about the same, and we'll look a little deeper in a second, it's not just rinse and repeat. The molds are a little bit different. We'll definitely dig into that. Now, before we crack this guy open and take a look at the hardware and the gameplay itself, real quick tour of the box. Like previous releases, we have a clear case with a little crescent of some of the artwork included. This is the All-Star Arena variety, as we noted. 300 plus video games. Now, what we're talking about, we know now, is really the 7 Jellico games and 300 more of those little weird pseudo-mobile-y shovelware kind of games. But yeah, we're gonna have 307 or so titles in this unit for our money. And around the back, once again, we have the single panel that shows kind of a sampling of the Jellico games we've got, and a little magnetic latch opens up for a preview of more features. We see a call out to the 7 Jellico games, plus the 300 bonus games. We know it's got volume control and a headphone jack, unlike the Pico and the Nano, and a slightly larger screen going at 2.75 inches, even larger than the previous two. Over on this side, we learn about our power options. We can put in 4 AA batteries, not included, or power with USB using a Type-C connector. And I think it's kind of funny they continued this imagery of showing you could shove this micro player into a backpack. Look at this backpack. That thing is not going to zip shut. This thing is a beast. You're not throwing that into a sack. I think that's probably more than enough packaging porn, so now I think it's time to get this guy cut open and take a tour of the hardware. So inside we have the All-Star Arena and a couple of pieces of propaganda. We have this flyer that's at least 2 years old and has nothing new in it, so that's garbage. And then we have these instructions. For a unit where we really need instructions because of all these Jellico games, it's nothing but how to put the batteries in 10 or 12 different languages. So again, garbage. Now, if you've ever looked at a micro player with me before, you're going to see a lot of the same things here on this one, though it's been several years since anything new has come out. Artwork on the side, again, really vibrant, really nice work. I think they're stepping up the print, actually. This is a decal, but it's really glossy and looks fantastic. On the bottom here, again, we have on the knee board is the power switch, which also looks like a coin door, which is always a nice touch, I thought. Up top, we have a marquee, which is not an illuminated marquee, I should point out. And then we have the screen here. This is 2 3/4 inches that's currently covered up with this little sticker, which we'll remove before we get to playing. And then let's talk about these controls. This is likely to sound very familiar to you. Look, we've got an A button and a B button. Across the top, we have a start, select, and reset. And then for directional, we have that little D-pad with a screw-on, screw-off bat top joystick. Now, this has come under some criticism in the past because people say it's imprecise. I never had a great problem with them, but we'll see how it applies to this All-Star Arena and these Jellicoe titles. And then let's take a quick look around back. You can see up top, we have a volume up and down button flanking this headphone jack in the middle, which is nice to have. The rear firing speaker is also here, and then below that is the battery box. Now, this requires not only a clip, but also a screw to get to the batteries, or if you'd rather not use 4 AA batteries, you can also power it with 5-volt USB-C. So happy they're using USB-C, finally. And before we get into looking at the software, I do want to spend just a moment taking a look and comparing this new microplayer to the one we're accustomed to from a couple of years ago. And you can see at a glance, it does not match exactly. It's not exactly what we've seen before. There is a new design in place here. You can see the new one takes a much more sharp and angular approach to the lines, whereas the old one had a very smooth, kind of curved profile. Looking at them back to back here, it's real easy to see that they're almost exactly the same height. And if we set them side by side, I have the backs perfectly flush, and you can see the fronts are also almost perfectly flush. So same height, same width, a little bit different in the side panel design, but otherwise very much similar to what we've come to expect from a micro player. All right, why don't we get some batteries in this one, power it up, and see how it plays. There we are, straight out to a menu. Yeah, 307 in 1. It's pretty loud too. I can turn it up further. Oh, it's nice and loud. So there are 7 Jellicoe games. Goal, Racket Attack, Hoops that we knew, the 4 baseball games. They're just reorganized here because in the arena, soccer is what is kind of more prominent in the top there. So I've already played these looking at the Pico. I'll put a link up in the corner if you'd like to take a look, but I will take a peek right quick to see how they look here on the Micro. I don't know if it's a different screen or it's processed differently. I know it's larger, but it definitely seems to me to be cleaner, clearer, maybe better than I remember in the previous Micro arcades. I don't know. Did you update my arcade? I don't know. It seems better. Hey, look, I'm the little blue guys. Oh, I lost the ball. No goalie. There, they scored on me. Cute animation, as always. All right. Oh, quickly, before I forget, I want to let you know that we just relaunched a brand new merch store here at GenXGrownUp. Maybe you looked at what we had before that was on some of those other sites. Left something to be desired, I know. Not this time. We have a bigger store, more selection, better quality, better prices. Better get over there and get you some GenXGrownUp swag while you can. GenXGrownUp.com/merch, or you can click the link down in the description of this video. Check it out. You just might find a design you can't live without, and you'll know that you're helping GenXGrownUp in the process. Okay, back to the games. Racket Attack is the tennis game, just in case you didn't see when we looked at it before, real quick. Yeah, these are all NES titles, which I think everyone knows at this point. All right, Bernard versus Eagle. Here we go. There we go. Serve. Nope. Not that button. Eagle's whooping me. Then we got some hoops, of course. Little basketball. Mr. Doc. Look, none of that pixel compression. Everything is just crystal clear here. You could be a whole lot happier about the quality of this. Man. Oh, it actually made one. All right, me. Look at the little short guy. I'm sure he's going to whip me. Oh, how do I get the ball? Traveling. Cool animation. All right, cool hoops. And then we got the 4 bases loaded, all baseball games. Let's take a look at one we haven't seen before. Maybe bases loaded 3. Music on and off. These really could benefit from instructions. You're going to have to look these up online, but Oh yeah, very clear. This is the best of the lot, to be certain, of these new releases. That's a pretty impressive NES baseball game. There's a little hit. Oh, throw me out at first. Get the field from the other direction now. Have it on defense. Come on, get it to second, because I think he's running. Throw him out first. Got it. Yeah, so there are the 7 games you probably care about, and then, for whatever reason, hundreds of these weird shovelware games. Like, we've looked at Curly Monkeys, plenty. I just like looking at a sampling of these that I've never looked... Like, Deformable. Like, what does that even mean? It's a race car? It's a transforming car? Like, am I the left car, the right car? See, I don't even know. Enough of that. Look, you got table tennis. There's some more sports. Fruit boxes, heroes, mice. Let's go down to the 70s and see. Oh. Just happened on Worm Dream. We got to see what Worm Dream is. There's your worm. And am I dying? Okay, it's a maze game. Ghost Palace, basketball, blackjack, fishing, derby, twin cards, twin fish. I wonder if there's any mowing on here. Busy bar, climbing, contest. Like, you couldn't be any more specific than contest. Outer space something. I'm shooting a guy on a grid? Sure. Devil Palace, difference, egg contest, ghost castle, go fish, hangman. Look, 150, we're only halfway through. Vigilant, Warzone, water pipe. What? Ass art? I hope that's not what that's called. Assart? Ass art? There we go. And rocks. Cannonade, Cub Adventure, Tactful Trojan, IQ Champion, Primitive Man. Look at 100 more left. Frantic Fishing, Highway Rider. We gotta just see the last one. That's always the most fun. What did you say for the very last? Down at good old number 307. Motor Rally. Well, that's not even ridiculous. That's just a motorcycle game. And it's a motorcycle game. And back to the main screen. I honestly have very few criticisms about the delivery on what was promised in this new micro player. It's definitely All-Star Arena, it definitely has 7 Jellicoe games, it definitely has 300 additional games that you can futz around with. All of my criticisms stem from the fact that My Arcade are not delivering Wave 2 caliber material in this Wave 2 line here at the beginning. This is an arcade gadget, it's shaped like an arcade, it's meant to invoke arcade. There are sports games on it that never saw the light of the day in an arcade. These are all NES titles. So why are you leveraging the arcade game? It's because people see it and they recognize it. But if you're a collector and lover of classic arcade games, this particular version of this cabinet is probably of minimal interest to you. Now the Data East, much better I would expect. They have a Data East version of this that has those 7 or 8 Data East games and a whole bunch of more shovelware if you like that stuff. But here we're just getting the same sports games that we saw 2 or 3 years ago in that pocket player. It's not innovation. It's really not what we want to see out of this new wave of My Arcade. All that being said, they have improved on everything here. I have no complaints about the joystick. I know a lot of people are down on the bat top removable joystick. I have no problems with it. The buttons are responsive. They do what they're supposed to. And the screen looks great. The speaker is loud. This is a great platform for playing classic arcade games. The problem is they just haven't put classic arcade games on these toys yet. We need the original arcade ROMs. That's what we want on these things. For 40 bucks, maybe the Data East one for 40 bucks. This one, I mean, if you want to play the crapware games, they're novel, get the $20 or the $25 one. You know, this jumps up by 15 bucks. It goes all the way to 40 fast. And I'm not sure the value proposition is there. So all that taken into consideration, I'm going to award this All-Star Arena Micro Player 3 tokens out of 5. If it was an arcade game at all, it would probably rate higher. If it had an arcade ROM, it would rate much higher. This platform is fantastic. I want to see more of this from my arcade. I want to see more of these cabinets. I want to buy them, but I want them to be arcade titles, and I want them to be new things we haven't seen, and I want them to be genuine arcade ROMs. That's it. Hey, if you haven't already, maybe check out my review of the Pico player or the Nano player. I'll put links right here on the screen. I surely hope you found something to enjoy though in this video, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.